10, 11, 12, 13, 14, by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 are 70, 6 are 84, 6, 7, 8, 9, 90, 90, 92 characters. Genshin Impact currently has Mavuika will be number 93, the Pyro Traveler number 94, Tai Sitlali number 95. And we still know there's a lot to come. So in this version of NATLAN, we will have at least 100 characters in Genshin Impact. Today, whenever a creator does this kind of thing you're seeing here, then things happen on social media. So leave a good like, a good Benetsu optive. Subscribe and leave a good comment for the algorithm. Remember that it costs you nothing, it's totally free. Recommends, positions the video, and specifically, this is going to be a nuclear bomb. Thank you for the support and for the affection, and welcome guests to the directs. Okay. And make the most of it if you're eating, because you're going to enjoy the food very well today. And finally, remember that Bendy's draws are active. For this particular video, I'm not going to win a Bendy. I'm going to draw 3 lunar blessings among all people. Then like, sign up with bell, and leave a good comment for the algorithm, with the opinion of your favorite character, or which one might be higher, lower, and why. All from respect. It's complicated that it looks on social media, but we're going to work on this part at least. That it is my community in that it is and education is not lacking. And today, we're going to see the Genshin Impact pre-Mavuika tier list in NATLAN from 2024. Updated, as I say, right before Mavuika's departure. Including a little prediction, which all this can change because they haven't come out. Chaska and Auroron. So without further delay, we begin. Well, there's an easy couple of parts, and it's just, let's start on the Horsemen of the Apocalypse. We're gonna put them up pretty high because we know where they are. Go include Gamiga, although Gamiga is in the end a carry. It could be a little less important. And then we'll also put up here the 5 stars must pull. That this is very clear that they are the best characters in the game. I can also put Loyendaha because this is the Senyan tier. Tier, all-powerful. It's too long. There it is, and then here in between, this would be more than... Let's put the S here, here's the A, and here are the me characters. I mean, there's a lot to do here for every character to do their thing. Here, here, and here, of course, they will contribute. The must-pull are the best in the game. And also remember that these are the typical disclaimer. From left to right, they'll be better to worse. And from... This isn't ordered yet. And from top to bottom, it will also be better to worse. Okay, that's very easy. We're also going to put Dory here. I've seen Novelet here, so we sent him around. But it's a carry. I always put it under the supports. Yelan, let's just put here like this. In the end, the must-pull are upstairs. And Yelan by Furina and Xingqiu, let's say, he's gone down slightly. Although he could be here. Perfectly Yelan. Furina, here's Furina. This is the easy thing to do, as I say. Let's put where Nahida is. Let's go find Nahida. Now in the video you'll be saying, Phil is up, it's down, it's on the right. Because it's not like a stream, obviously. This is Shlonen do. Now I ordered this. Don't worry, the first is the easiest. Zetos. I'm so sorry, I'll put it around here at Tirchinyan. He's got practically nothing. Ningguang Azu goes this way today. Sichuang. I'm so sorry, he's also going this way. Where do I find it? Kiori would be around here and me. Alechino, next to Novelet. Tang, they're the top 3 carries in the game today. Novelet, Alikimo, and Gaming in this order. But like carries a little bit further down. And where is Nahida? Legendary Lettuce. Letuze over here too. 1, 2, 3, 4. The 4 best characters in the game. I actually felt that way. Then the Horsemen of the Apocalypse. The carries. That is to say, this will be a case at present. And now we can go to the tier of those who are very powerful. But they're no longer to pull, let's say. I mean, we have Yelan here. We have Seiyun. We have 2 of those considered at the time. Horsemen of the Apocalypse, but to this day they are a little more in disuse. They're Sucrose and Fischl. These characters were in the top 4-star tier of the game, but to this day they are very useful and very strong, but they're a little less played. Let's see them around here too. As inside, we're also going to put Emily. I've seen her around here. Here's Emily, who would go this way as second best inside the game, below Nahida, and above all the rest. What else? The carries of NATLAN. Very careful with the roofs that currently reach, and with the roofs that can reach even better. Because they'll both work with Mavuika, because we can actually get Cone Gun Kinish, and with Chero Weapon, Mwalani, things that may be just below these three. Which are the best carries in the game, so very careful with Kinish and Mwalani, what they have been able to improve, and what they can further improve. Kinish depends heavily on Weapon and Cone. A lot of people ask me, but Phil? And this is all Chero Cone. It's at the optimum point of every character that remains totally realistic. Even for a free-to-play, I mean, it's not gonna be anything more than C2 and Gun, and many characters shuffle that scale from between Chero with 4-star Gun, or Cone and Gun, C2 and Gun at most, but many of them get their best result included at Chero, like Silonen, Nahida, Kazuha, and Furina, which is why they're here. Let's put Raiden down here a little bit. Raiden is really fun of the audience today. Raiden is his two best teams, which is Raiden and Perkery. If you've seen an improvement with Silonen C2, a new roof of Raiden and Perkery, and besides Raiden is supposed to, and this is speculative, that Mavuika is coming to improve the Raiden National. Instead of Xiangling, since we can play Bennett Mavuika, Yelankon Aqua and Raiden C2 are Tate. And here comes the speculative part. The buff to reactions will also improve a little. The damage of the Raiden national team, along with Mavuika. If all this comes true, Raiden could be here. Or maybe someone knows how Mavuika contributes to Raiden, because maybe you can even wear the set that buffs the elemental damage. Maybe he's around, you don't know. To this day, the whole speculative being could leave Raiden well down on S, or I could even leave it in AA. And as you can see, the carries will always put them behind the supports, though maybe Kimichi Mwalani could get them around here right now. So Raiden, remember it's speculative. If one is at the end of the video, because a lot of people when there are tier leaks, he's just going at the end to see what the final tier is. It's important to see the explanations. Raiden could be here at his present moment. Behind everything there really is. But if Mavuika and the buffo to reactions come to improve all this, and the buffo of elemental damage that decapitates instead of 300 and 400, although Raiden is very difficult to get to that buffo cape, I could get to be right around here with these 3 NATLAN cars. They're so hot. What else? Shipping a high is a very good carry, but, of course, well, here's the reality is that I'd actually share it with Raiden, below the rest of the carries. Alhaitham, Chero carry, very strong and very important, only today it's been overtaken by Kinish Cone more weapon, because Alhaitham doesn't throw you so much with the constellations, but for many Alhaitham I know that for his contribution Chero is above and above, but this way, or even this way, I'd put it down here on that one. Tia Chichi. Let's put the Tia Sinyan here. Let's go discarding characters from these who do quite little. Candace would also be here and on the Tia Sinyan is by use. It's true he has some things. That would bring us slightly more than all these characters. I did in a video of Candace, which is over here on screen, as a character that contributes to Arlecchino's teams by the buff to normal attacks. As a character that contributes to Mwalani's teams by the buff to normal attacks and hydro consonants. He's got a carry team that can do a really good job, because it basically takes advantage of this, and this above these characters. But, well, it could be around here, or it could be around here. What is that I'd want to finish doing the strongest and the least strong. Because it's the clearest thing, and then in the end the center is a little bit the most discussed. Oila, I put it over here in mi bio, because within what fits Eula does a lot more than the tier Shinyan. The dedicated supports I would like very much. Bring them all together to a tier that's here. Let's put here the dedicated supports to go. Kave would count as a dedicated bloom carry with Nilu. Now we're talking about that too. Yoimiya over here in me, maybe over Eula. Below Shuri, as Shuri is support. Kokomi is not used today. Now he also entered a small tier of extreme defensive contributions, like Bayuju, Kokomi, and Zhongli. Deya would be in me. Deya, above these characters, also does something slightly important. Above Candace, something like that. Ororon, Escaramouche, Nilu. I'd like to put it on hold for being the Bloom's enabler, but to this day the Blooms, though they have not ceased to be strong, and they are interesting and can burst a room of the abyss calmly. They are equipment that are in disuse, and that with some abysses that bring us. For example, G-shields or that limit our equipment, for they have even less share, let us say, in the abyss. And also good part, very low investment. Bad part is true that you can be taken care of by Nahida, and some other interesting characters from Hydro, as Yelan or Jingshu might be, that these characters are used in other teams today. Nahida in Hyper Blooms, Purina with Novelet, Yelan and Genshin are used with Alekino. Furina is used with Yamin. Purina is also used with Alekino. Then in the end, Nilu is in this use. But it would be a taller because it's very interesting today. We continue with dedicated supports. Chibrush, in my opinion, apart from the buff to the reactions on charge, in my opinion, Chibrush would put it in S. But like I say, wait, because I'm gonna accumulate here. To all 4 stars dedicated supports. Look, here's Xinyan, who I wanted to find. And Dori, more important than Aloy, maybe more important than Cetos. Not as important as Ningguang, who has dedicated supports. Yeah, it's good, nothing okay. Dedicated supports. Chibrush, I'm going to put it here perfectly. In fact, even above, I hasten this by overload teams. It is very important, and besides the buffed overload reactions, overload teams are becoming more and more important. It's a team like the Blooms of Nilu, with low investment and good results, that they will have a buff, that this is important, but they also have, say, more quota, more niche. And they don't have to use you as top characters, such as Xingqiyu or Nahida, but you're using official that's around here, a Raiden that's over here, a Yay that we'll put on Earth now. I mean, Shabrush is very important, but, well, I'm going to put the dedicated sports here. And then we go with Shabrush. Goru over here? Look, here I found Freminet. That Freminet will automatically go under Eula, which I think I'll put it around here too. I'm so sorry to poor Freminet. It's interesting. You have your equipment and you can also get there. In the end, everything can come down holes. I recently lowered a room in 40 seconds. With a team from Bori Hyperboom. I mean, even this tier Chinyan could get down holes of a rotation with the right equipment, but we also count that the character himself does something apart. Then there are the travelers, which I also want to talk about, because basically I'd be the traveler inside, a useful traveler that would put down. Because today we already have Emily Nahida, we have Kirara, which is very interesting. I just got a character where he doesn't play. We have Baiju as a support and such, so the traveler inside would be down here, but the rest of the travelers, Geo, Electro, and everything else, I'd be around in vain, literally at Dory's. I'm practically sorry for the travelers. Traveler inside, the rest of travelers in summary. We're halfway there. We've been here 12 minutes and we're in half. This is interesting because that's how we're speeding up. And then I can focus more on the explanations. Mika, here's another dedicated support. We have Mika, Guru, Sarah, Kaveh, Faruzan, Charlotte, and I don't think I need any. I'm going to take a look. Well, we've got Yunjan who'd put it around here. Almost Yunjan is no longer used. No longer has any equipment. There's no such thing as, when character comes up, has a curve where people forced to use it. In some teams just A, because he likes, B, because he wants to test what options he might have. But Yunjan today is already extremely discarded. No one equips her, no one uses her practically. Poor thing who likes it. And I think the dedicated supports are already there, I think. I don't know if I'm missing any, but I'd say no. A quick review, and I definitely don't lack any dedicated support. Shenhe is 5 stars, with which we then touch on Shenhe's theme. So, dedicated supports. First, Chebras, I'm going to put it directly on S, here at the height of the Hyzon, either above or below. Then the rest are Faruzan, which in the end is best in the slot. Over Xiaoyu and Scaramouche, i.e. it is 2 carries, that I would now put them in the tier, but I wouldn't say I'd put them every day in S either. Chebrus and Scaramouche. Zara of the Hyper Carry, who is also around Raiden, and he doesn't have a character that's higher than Sarah either. With which they two, let's say, who are the ones I use the most can have. Kaveh is interesting, and the equipment, say, offensive of Kaveh. Xingqiu, Nilo, Nahida or Nahida Ambar, if you want a little more heating. Yes, it is one of the best variants of Bloom's teams. But I always told you that, like Bloom's team, Bloom explodes and hurts you and lowers your life. I will personally recommend always some extra defensive input, like playing directly Nilo, a Nahida, Kokomi, and last a Traveler inside, a Kirara. So, Kaveh is interesting. Is it technically best in the slot with more offensive input? Very little and less defensive input, with which really Kaveh. Pabayito is very disused, the poor in A, because in the end his function fulfills it above these me. Then Goru, practically Goru is only for Ito, because Navi now goes with Kyorikon Arma or Silonen, and Mika's only from Eula, which is way down. So the really dedicated supports, I'm so sorry, but like Mika. Unless in the future, Captain is a super mega physical ultra Kari, Mika's going to go this way in fact next to Eula, because they're for each other today. Goru being for Ito would leave him here, because in the end the cheeks and the contribution is very strong, depends on the cheeks. It's only for a team, it could be lower. And then Sarah and Faruzan, I'd say I'm going to leave them more or less like this, since Faruzan is for 2 characters, Xiao and Scaramouche. And Sarah, apart from working well with Keqing and Chlorinde, Keqing and Chlorinde play better on other teams, more comfortably above playing Sarah, I mean, is not the absolute ceiling or the best in slot, which Faruzan does. With which a little bit up. I think many of you, if you say that really these dedicated supports, they were here at me just depending on their CX. And only depending on your specific team. Ito, Raiden, Hypercarry, and Xiao Scaramouche, I'll buy you the argument. I mean, the character is such as A because they're very strong. To be 4 stars for all the input they give you as buffers, but as they are now used on a punctual team, well, they could be lower. I mean, I leave him here for contribution they give, because reality is far more than this. Kiori Ultra Mega, super dependent on your cone and gun, and below Gilonen, and below Albedo Achero, which is why I put it in me. Could be Kiori down here, the truth is, because his work does it right. So I'm going to go down to me to the travelers inside anyway, I'd be in A. These are the me. This is Kiori. It's fair they put her on. Okay, now we're going with everything that might come to doubt, and it's very much in the middle of everything, because this here is super clear. This down here is what's interesting. Because there are characters that have come up, that have come down, that are used, that are not used. Well, 20 right now is me. There's a lot of people saying that 20, that 20, that 20, and that's more nostalgia. Affection for the design and what the character represents. He sold every day, and it's literally useless. I've been venting into the abysses for a year or more of abysses. It doesn't bring together a single enemy. 12th floor of the abyss. Venti maybe for the theater does serve a little more, and for the 9th and 10th floors. I always said 20 is good for the 9th and 10th floors of the abyss, because it makes you pass them too fast to go straight to 11 and 12. They are the ones that really represent a minimum challenge. But to this day, they have put in a quality of life that makes that if you pass the 12, 4 stars, 9 and 10 automatically complete. We don't have to use Venti anymore. So, Venti today has fallen to me. To play Venti, you can play better than Venti. Even recommend playing the Inet. I don't know if I've put it. It's down here. It must be down here. I recommend you play the Inet directly. It's here. Don't worry, I recommend you play Sucrose, Kazuha, Xianyun, 80,000 anemos. But don't play Venti because it's annoying. Because it doesn't generate energy well. Because practically everything fails. Because he throws the ulti out of the abyss. Because he matters nothing. Because the damage he does only does if the enemy receives all the tips from the ulti. Venti today is a character who brings nothing. Even if there are people who can hit him, he doesn't contribute anything to an account. It doesn't have teams where it's best in slot. It doesn't benefit the teams where it is. And if you intend to play it, let's say by forcing its playability, you're gonna get frustrated because you're gonna see that he doesn't do his ulti well. That doesn't give anyone, that doesn't bring anyone together. I would recommend playing Inet before Venti, which gives you the green shadow. Maybe you'll get more Lynette particles now than Venti if you're wearing C4 and Favonius. He does not gather you to enemies, but he gathers them to you better than Venti. Because it has a taunt, and the big enemies that hit with this taunt of the ulting, they're going to be centered on the ulti, basically in the center. Zolinet, better than Venti. Amber, I'm gonna put her over here in tier Xinian. Maybe above Yunjin, below Sven. See if I have anything else that's clear. Razor this day, I'm so sorry, but it's here in me. Razor, I'm so sorry, we've had a lot of love. It was in fact the ones you were from the beginning of the channel, when practically the channel started and almost the first year. I was the icon of the Razor channel, my favorite character when I started. Genshin, my first abyss was Razor with Klee at 1.1, but today Razor does not contribute much, even though he has a team, which is the Thunder Fury, which is with Shink, Bennett, Chikes, and Senahida, making more Hyper Bloom Crackle and moving from Pyro plus the Electro. But try hard to put him on me for that team. He's here at tier Xinyan. Toma would put it down next to Dihya, that many people also overvalue Zoma. But the reality of Toma is that it's terrible to play crackling teams. To this day, he has been given that courage in crackling equipment, because it's practically the only option. It's not a bad shield, just like Layla, I don't know where. Here's Layla too, I'd be down too. I'm so sorry for the me and Layla. But the reality is that to play Crackle Zoma is extremely uncomfortable, unlike Kuki. I mean, Toma's comparison with Kuki makes Toma literally able, until the Artinian gets down here. So, basically, the Toma was given prominence, because there was no better option than Zoma to crack. It means you have to overvalue it or raise it. It doesn't mean it's the only option there is today. It is hide better options to crack in the future. But Toma does her job pretty bad, in fact, to crackle. So Toma down here rotates 20, little energy. Depends on your ulti. The shield is terrible. Cracking them more or less exploits them. In a very small area in front of you and not in an area like Kuki. So Layla the same. Layla today doesn't have best in slot. It's a shield more or less strong, but for it to have a shield, instead of both, there's Dongli. For today's crackling equipment, Emily's roof. Kinis are used with Xiangling and Furina both, so the crackling ceilings already Toma has disappeared from them. Even Katsuha insinuating from pyro and very rare crackling equipment. I recommend that you try just by trying to see the difference. Nahida, Xingqiu, Katsuha and Bennett, which is a rare crackling team, with some vaporized from some more story that literally blows the wings, and even Kazuha himself, even if he has only 8 seconds of ulti, it does better work than Toma in crackling. Toma and Layla around here as a defensive contribution, perhaps above Eula? Possibly as minimal defensive input and characters that at the end, they never did it half as right, so they did it half right. But every day his work gets worse. Barbara with Bloom Team Instructor set is not bad, and the Halo Barbara has around that applies Hydro isn't bad at all either. So in my opinion, Barbara would be above Venti right now. He sincerely contributes more than Venti on some team. And now it's interesting because we can put some carries, that we know that they are powerful, that we lack in that. Here I want to make a point and talk about the characters that basically contribute to the cryo element, which would be Ayaka, Cheng, Riotasli and Ganyu, who hadn't found her. Yeah, I'm gonna find her. There's Ganyu. Rooster for algorithm today, of course, permafrost is in disuse. No, I mean, it's impossible. In this same specifically, you can play permafrost in the first half, but it's anecdotal. So, the cryo characters, all of them, including Riotasli, have their current roof and their best in slot in permafrost. Riotasli has a considerable difference in damage by playing on burn, and has improved minimally with Emily, that is Riotasli, Emily, Xiangling, Bennett, and in the future, Mavuika instead of Xiangdin. This may be further improved by Mavuika's targeting 40% of elemental damage to Riotasli. So, if we're talking about speculating in the future, like maybe with Raiden, although I left it down because we're not clear about all this and something else, that I have also commented, these characters are here today, and they could be higher. Riotasli might have been able to get in here but to this day with the nerf to permafrost and with the real core of burn that we have, as I've taken Raiden into account in the end, and I've taken into account in the end these carries of NATLAN, Riotasli would be in a very low, or at the beginning of me, just because their teams aren't consistent. That if they are well and they pass the wings, just as they can reach them to pass Miller. But compared to these carries, compared to all the must-pull above in comparison, with everything else in the game today, Riotasli is pretty low. I think I'd put it right around here. By giving him justice and bearing in mind that he can benefit him, Mavuika's buff would put it around here, and we'll see in the future. How about these carries here on the ground? Maybe Navius would come up and count Shilon at C2 on the Navius team, Furina C2 and Bennett, and more or less over there, Raiden on roofs. With Shilon at C2, no Raiden would be here. Then Ayaka only works in permafrost, with which I'm in permafrost. At the time, I am aware that he had one of the roofs, not to say the highest ceiling of the game, when there was the combination of Raiden. But today, the game changes, and things change. I think Ayaka, counting permafrost, would be perfectly here. Maybe even above Gaman, I'm not sure. But if we don't count the permafrost, I'm gonna put Ayaka on top of me. If there is no permafrost, Ayaka cannot be used. I mean, poor little Ayaka. But today, because of the permafrost issue, very low. Shenhe goes hand in hand with Ayaka on some particular team with aim, Riotasli, but I don't recommend it for cool, though they don't match well. And some team of inverse melts full 4 stars. That reality is that to this day practically nobody plays because they play these combinations of very rosy characters and such. So, if we take into account those melts, Shenhe could be on the bottom. Over here next to Kiori, below the dedicated stands. I'd say this way, but considering the permafrost, Shenhe goes hand in hand with I'm gonna put it over here because out of permafrost you can play teams, and yes, they are used today. Ganyu is very simple. Ganyu as a carrier of permafrost beneath Ayaka. Ganyu as sub-DPS support, best in slot from Riotasli permafrost, but it also affects the issue of permafrost. And Ganyu in reverse melts below Riotasli as a carry. Ganyu has a melt team where he melts the Laden and so on. So today Ganyu is under Riotasli, he's under Shenhe. Ayaka makes this role and worse. This role and worse, and this role and worse, though it's the best in slot of Riotasli's teams. So I'm so sorry to Ganyu, but I'd put it right here next to Ayaka above Barbara. If it were permafrost, they'd be much higher. I repeat, there will be people who see the tier punctually and see Ganyu here, and Ayaka and tell me, but what? But it's reality. Why you can't play permafrost? Or you can play it once every 3 months. It's anecdotal. It's a team that let us play when they literally feel like it. That's clear for now. And the top, Furina, Shilonen, Nahida, Kazuha, Beidokto. I think this is I'm very clear. Here, Xingjiu, Bennett. I think I'd put Bennett here. Xiangling, Cookie. I'm clear too. Maybe I'll put Cookie over Xiangling. Noivilet, Alakino, Gaming. This Morphle is super perfect. The S would have Yelan, Xianyun, Emily. Look at the power grip, every recent character is here. Kinish Mwalani. Kinish is more versatile than Mwalani, although Mwalani has abysmal ceilings. Zagaros to Fisher, Chevrus and Al-Haytham. This over here, the dedicated supports. Riodesley is doing justice because he would put it a little lower, honestly. But, well, I think it's going to affect you directly. Like the buff or the Chevrus overload or the Riot national theme, Riodesley is going to be directly affected by the buff and Novuika. So I think this is a little over. I'm overestimating it by putting tier. It could be. This one should be lower. Dedicated supports. Shania, Abe, Tori, Owen Arad title. Dendro Traveler, that would be great too. And from here, Mir. In May, perfect, and in Sinyan, perfect. We keep putting up characters. Diona would put it over here next to Dihya, under Mika on Eula's team. Diona is certainly useful, but practically nothing is used anymore. Diona has a team with gaming. Amming Rosaria Diona Bennett, which is a totally melted 4 stars free to play. That it's very strong, in fact, it's very strong. It would be top 4 or 5 teams of Gammon himself, that is within the gaming team variants. But other than that, Diona is no longer used. It is no longer used in Perma outside. There's nothing to use Diona, so Diona is going to be more or less around here next to Dihya. Right now, Diona is up to Dihya. Maybe so, more or less. Now I wanted to get the carries. Well, Xiongyon here in Mingjingyan. I'm so sorry for the main Xiongyon who plays it. Maybe below Chichi, above Shiswa and Mentinyan Danda. Xiongyon, I'm so sorry. I wanted to get the carries that are powerful, and that people hold them in high esteem or have them at a price. Hu Tao is one of them. He's not here in Menxinyan. He'd be around here in A. Let's put it over here too. Now Hu Tao has improved a lot, in fact, with Fiorina, Yelan, Ayato, and Tartaglia, which practically to this day, and Tartaglia are the same. I mean, they're practically no different. Xiao, you know he's got a new roof with Fiorina. Xiongyon, Farudzan, or Bennett. Scaramouche next to... No, I put Mona. Scaramouche next to Xiao. And Lini, who also has, you know, the spot team where Nukea, where Fiorina uses. Katsuha Bennett, who is Alakino's best team today, and something similar to Gammon's best team, but being inferior to both using a similar equipment. I mean, instead of Kazuha, uses Xiongyon in the end, because it's a team of descendants. But basically, Lini has a new team, that it is about constantly inflating that equipment, but it's not good. And of the carries that people have at price. I'd say here too, I want to bring the table to Tignari, because in my opinion, Tignari can compete practically with Alhaizan, because Tignari, you can't leave at any time. In a permanent new arm similar, it's practically with Bono Endro, and Tignari has a rotation of 15 with Kuki and Fiorina in idea, which is the same team that plays Alhaizan Desire. And in the long run, when you start taking it out unintentionally, playing more than 2-3 years, a Tignari C2, Tignari C3, Tignari C4, which gives you more mastery. Tignari Denese doesn't change you too much, and I don't think many of you get to Tignari chicks, and you play full free to play. Calm down. It's not a hope or anything. But in the long run, in my opinion, I will always comment that Tignari can improve Alhaizan. Because Alhaizan he's here because he's very strong, to Chero and period. From there, Alhaizan, like Tartaglia, he's got a point, he's got a limit where he doesn't do anything anymore. And all the other characters that are above, they can climb it very easily, including Tignari, in the medium and long term with those extra constellations. The direct power crypt that Kinnich brought, who bursts Alhaizan on his own team, even though Kinnich is for different teams. So, I think to start by being honest, Tignari, I'll put it here just below Alhaizan, or commanding tier A for Hyper Bloom, because Tignari can benefit from Fiorina's C2, of the C2 of Nahida and Cookie. But it could be in the middle and long term around here, above Alhaizan. But for a lot of people, maybe they don't want to arm their ears. Either he already has a Kinnish, or he likes Alhaizan for character design. Or he shall say, well, Tignari's permanent. And pass the move that happened with Tignari's dubbing actor. And well, it may look like Tignari around here. With the descending combo that I taught you. He's Erdao's best team, and he's gotten a lot better, compared to what it used to be. It could be right over here, below Navia. Then Xiao could put it right here at Hu Tao's height, with his team that also has as variants, say, which is Xiao, Xianyong, Fiorina, C2 Terane. And as Xianyong heals already, you can put the Farazan chicks in, or you can get Bennett in and change into those slots. Any of the characters are valid and very strong. Then Liani, well, no, then Scaramouche. Scaramouche today has a problem and an advantage. If you play Scaramouche Faruzan Chicks, Fiorina C2 and Bennett, which is the same thing as Xiao, that is, playing an Anemo monkey. You have an amazing team that would be right here, at Hu Tao's pair and Xiao's pair fighting all. But that team has no resistance to interruption. If you're blown to a Scaramouche, you've got a third of the bar left. Scaramouche, you lose a lot of damage by brutal rotation, and you're really wasting time getting back in. So, a Scaramouche is very fragile and very delicate. I mean, today, Xiao is more stable on his team. That Scaramouche, then I'm going to put a Scaramouche underneath. I'm going to leave it in a 2 because in the end, it's a, but far below. Maybe Ryovesley's height would be more or less Scaramouche, a thing like that. And we ended up with Tartaglia, Ayato, and Linny. I'm so sorry, but they're going to go a lot further down. Linny could put it here next to Ryovesley. For the theme of the Team East at Nukia, which in the end is the same team. Today, Darekino, but much worse, or Kegamin. And Tartaglia and Ayato today have limited themselves to their internationals, or vapes. And yes, they have been very strong. They have that consideration, let's say, somewhat exaggerated by the issue of Achero are very good, which happens to Al-Haytham. But the reality is that they remain limited in comparison to everything. The rest when you talk about a little more investment. Both in the construction of artifacts and in constellations. And it's very realistic for a free-to-play that gets to a point that takes you playing 3 years and say, look, I'm not gonna be here taking out 80,000 monkeys. She nays, otherwise I will focus, for example, on my favorite team from Xiao. And that same thing can calmly overcome you to this day, the Chero of Tartaglia and Ayato. On the other hand, it may be that Mavuika, that Xiangling is mandatory. In the teams of Tartaglia and Ayato come to improve Tartaglia and Ayato, and perhaps Mavuika is so powerful that the internationals of Tartaglia and Ayato makes me do dad. You don't know. So, it's less likely that these teams will get so much better at other things that I have commented that they can directly affect characters like Ryovesley or the Overlord Bufo in Chevreuse, or as some team of 5, Mualani, Kinish, and Xiangling. I repeat, Mualani and Kinish are here for their current performance. Maybe with Mavuika, they go straight to Maspola's best carries of the game, or at least here, if Mavuika improves them a lot, but not for now. So for now, I put them here, so the 2 of them have a chance to be here if Mavuika gets better. It's International Vapes Bar, which is the same team that is the Kazuha, Xiangling, Bennett, but for now they have very high limitations on these teams, since the maximum you can reach for damage is at the Xiangling. 6 is made with Crown in the Ulti. Very well built, but little more. It's already overtaken by almost everything that's above it. So Tartaglia and Ayato are here today. Could they be better in the future? Yes. Could you put them here perfectly under the Inai as a point? I can do it perfectly. Let's do something. I put Ayato above Tartaglia. Tartaglia has the best team with international, but Ayato is versatile and easy. Ayato puts the load in, and already in mobile players is much simpler cell phone. Tartaglia, you have to make a normal 2 charge. At first, also insert the flow obstruction with a loaded with bows. You have to understand how the ulti works, which generates energy. You have to know how to pull the ulti of bows before entering with the daggers the first time. And then, when you pull the ulti of daggers on the first or second rotation, then it's fine. The complication at the end and the difficulty for many players. It's good for him to learn to add China, to draw its potential. But Ayato in the end allows you more teams, allows you to play permafrost. So this gentleman doesn't, and it allows you to make it easy. You just give him a button. So Ayato over here, over Tartaglia, even though Tartaglia gives you more damage at the international, like this, and then I could be higher with Mavuika, and I would put them down here, in below these other characters, and we're practically done. What's complicated is interesting because it makes people learn more about the game. Baidu as 4 stars was always considered strong as these here. Maybe like Fischl? The reality is that to this day, Baidu, not long ago, it's not used. It was used with Neverlet because it activates Baidu, gives you a shield, gives you Zoe. In the domain resistance, it gives you mitigations. Baidu has provided mitigations with Machine Q, and it activates with the loaders, with which Baidu had another minimal range of use with this gentleman, but it's gone all the way back into disuse. So Baidu, I'm so sorry, it doesn't fit into the 4 stars. From the beginning, they were broken. Baidu today would put it below these dedicated supports. I'd put it around here at Kiori's height more or less to Baidu. Baidu is not only in disuse, but to this day he contributes very little. And remember Baidu's polemic with Raiden. I recently made a video of the funnels of the characters, and many of you told me there was controversy when they said Baidu wasn't going to work with Raiden, because it came out of Hojoba's noses. And I actually forgot about the characters in that funnel video. Baidu over here with Traveler Dendro, with Kiori, Conan, Arma and such. And there's practically nothing left. Okay, now it's interesting. Let's bring the hyper-defensive contributions to the table. There Beidou Jim Zhongli Kokom, who's over here. And I must be missing some more. I think I'm going to bring Kirara to this table of defensive contributions, because Kirara has a very good performance, better than we expected, and it's used more than you thought. Charlotte also counts as a hyper-defensive contribution, because it cryo healed only cures, but it's used with Neuvillette, to use on some permafrost. Okay, and Sayu too. Okay, let's start with Jin. Jin does everything that Xianyun does, but worse, period. It's better than Xianyun on something concrete. He's curious that it's the Sunfire teams where you play Jin plus Bennett. And Jin Imbuya from Pyro and his ulti makes like a bunch of Pyro whirlwinds. Where about that Sunfire you can make reactions? About that continuous application of Pyro you can make reactions? It's funny, it's weird. It obviously happens to the wings of the Abyss, for practically everything today is passed to the wings of the Abyss, with correct use and knowledge. But it is a much worse version today than Xianyun in all respects. And same criterion for Sayu. Sayu is a worse version than Jin, which serves to explore, and so the butterflies don't leave. What a lot of you to say, Phil. I use Sayu on my scouting team. Well, yes, here it is. But the reality is Sayu would go in me down, here even below Diona. I could even get Sayu down to Chinyang. I'll put it in me, because in the end, even to explore serves, at least. And then Jin. Of all defensive, hyper-defensive contributions. It is also very shaded by Xianyun Dai, and of many other contributions that are here, which are Bennett, Chilonen today, Kuki, who are really the most commonly used defensive core contributions. I mean, and Chinyang, I'm sorry, or Xianyun does. Zojin, I'm so sorry, but Jin would go down pretty low. Then, the main core defensive contributions to this day. Only Mega, no fake, Nua, Zhongli, Baiju, and Kokomi can help us the most. Of the three today, would put Baiju above Zhongli. That it is best in slot and Zhongli and Kokomi are not. That's the only reason Baiju would put it. Best in slot means it's the best alternative for a specific team variant of some character. Zhongli doesn't have the padding, but the padding is better without Zhongli. And outside the stable, Zhongli doesn't have any best in slot. You don't play Zhongli with Neuvillette. Neuvillette plays Neuvillette, Furina, Katsuha, and Chilonen. Alekino's best in slot is Alekino, Furina, Katsuha, or Xilonen. And last but not least, Bennett, L Gaming the same. Kinich doesn't play with Zhongli. Mualani doesn't play with Zhongli. Alhaitham plays Hyper Bloom without Zhongli. Ran plays without Zhongli. Navia plays with Chilonen, Furina, Bennett. Hutao plays Furina, Yelan, Xianyun, Ponta. Xiao is played with Xianyun, Furina, Bennett, or Faruza in GXK. Scaramouche might be the one here, and give Zhongli a little tip, because as I explained to you before the topic of the risky team, as what I explained earlier was a team with no defensive input. I mean, Scaramouche, Faruza, Furina, Diduo, Bennett, which is Scaramouche's roof, but very fragile. Scaramouche, Faruza, Chinix, Zhongli, and Bennett are often played. Then it would be Zhongli's only real point, and the second best version of Ito's team. That it's not best in slot? It's second best in slot, but if you remove Zhongli, the team gets better. However, Baiju is the one who would be above all of them, because Sino's teams are best in slot with Baiju. Chlorine's teams, which people quite like Chlorine, in fact, and it's powerful even though in the end. Buffo is coming straight to Raiden. Chlorine, we could put her over here too, above Hutao, below Navia, for the best in slot of Chlorine is Baiju. Then in the end, Baiju already has these contributions. Then Baiju can be played in Bloom teams. Kokomi, who's also around here, can be played in pure Agrave teams. You can play in the Ye Afka, which is a team of Ye official Nahida, Baiju, that you throw away everything and the enemies disintegrate, without needing even to approach melee. It's really fun. So Baiju in the end has more alternatives, more teams, two best in slots, and Baiju can Biskura. Give you shield, you buff the reactions inside. It activates you perfectly to Furina. That Zhongli doesn't activate you well for Furina. So Baiju from defensive contributions, I think today is the main one, apart from Xianyang who's up there. Then, Zhongli and Kokomi. Let's see, these defensive contributions, they have always had a gigantic debate. In fact now, apart from this, I'm going to put Charlotte here. These four go in this order, okay? Defensive contributions always had a great debate, in my opinion, and part of the way to play. That I have and transmit to the community. You always have to look for continuous improvement, and you always have to try to reach points where you don't need to depend, to lose harm, to use things that simply give you security. In exchange for that damage, I mean, you have to trust that you adapt, and one improves as a person and as a player. Something super normal. And the reality is that the game, now I count the counterpart, no problem. The game has given me the reason. That is, to this day, Mualani is played without hyper-defensive contributions. Kinich plays with Bennett. This gentleman plays with Fiorina, Kazuha, Shilonen. I mean, if you see all these characters up here, practically none is played with Zhongli or Kokomi anymore. That at the time all the people out of this channel did. Zhongli's here and Kokomi's here. And the reality is that today in the game, as I say, time gave me reason at this particular point, and they're not there anymore. It's not a bad thing either, but I'm going to apply too. That of self-criticism and wisdom. I understand they're still very important characters. For new accounts, for average accounts, for the account that for them the combat does not enthrall them, it's not the most important thing in the game and just want to. Come on, this is easy. I give you 3 buttons. I take the abyss out with proto-gems because I want my proto-gamers for my Chinese monkeys. I don't care about the rest. I just want to make cottages in the housing, and I really like the story of Genshin, and I like Genshin's text a lot. Well, basically these 3 characters as defensive pillars, they could become very strong. So here, quite the contrary, and as self-criticism of everything that has happened before. And that I came to comment, and I commented, and I respect it, and I keep it. But in other words, that literally playing Zhongli is paramancos. I said it a lot of times now already in time, and the best experience the creator has given me. It's not that it's parastains in the sense of perspective, but it is true that it is for people who would care less for the difficulty of the game. I could understand that the top defensive contributions today by Jui and Zhongli are here. Kokomi, I'm not going to put it up because today, Kokomi, he's got his best in slot from Niall's team. But from there, it's no better for Permafrost. It's hardly any better at anything anymore. Kokomi's lost a lot and I'm gonna keep her down here. Let's put Charlotte here, who brings the same. Or more than Kokomi, because maybe he can carry a Dragon Hunter. Like Kokomi, it cures you the same or more as Kokomi, and enables some permafrost and other equipment. And he can even wear a Favonius and get a chance, because being Cryo can gain more probability by being Cryo. Then Yao Yao, Kirara, and Jin. Kirara careful, because in my opinion today, by the Dendro Shield and application there are not so many supports here. Inside is the shadow of Baizhui, of course. They don't have to do because Baizhui has a terrible shield, and Kirara just gives you a good shield, doesn't cure you. But Kirara on some teams for Grave, and I've seen you use it quite a bit, and we could put it around here like 4 stars, above these dedicated supports. But of course, if we count Guru's contribution to Ito A66, Zara for Adizeron A6 Farusan A6 for Xiao and Scaramouche, and we're looking to force Kirara on Agrav's team alone. And specifically if Chlorind or Keking, then she goes here, right here. So by Yuji and Zhongli, out of respect, and for new players, I'd put them over here. It's an Archon at the end. Older people like Zhongli must be respected, but in my opinion, I would put Zhongli and Baizhui here perfectly. Today, like I said, it's not used. If you look halfway up at Genshin's characters, this one and this one are not used. Baizhui is represented as very high here and Zhongli is not represented, above himself on no team. So they'd be here, but well, out of respect for new players, or people who aren't so focused on combat, they can provide the accounts at this level perfectly, considering their limitations that they're only going to make you a few bike wheels. I mean, this is so you don't fall off your bike, but there'll be a point where you know how to go straight with the bike, and you won't need it at all. And there are going to be characters who are going to be there without any use on your account. And here we go. Albedo more useful than Kiori in my opinion. I would recommend it over Kiori, so I'll put it over here. Albedo next to Baidu. Keqing as a carry below, practically Chlorine of Raiden, and so on. So Keqing would put it. I'm so sorry for the Minkechings. But to this day, Keqing does not reach the height of these carryings that are above. So Keqing's here on top of me. Of course, Shino is annoying. I could get to put it around here considering you're doing great. With Fiorina, with Nahida C2, and you can take advantage of them just as you will it. Chlorines. But Shino today on the team is less versatile, and less useful than Chlorine herself for a very simple reason. And it's just that Shino still has 20 rotation, and still has a problem. And if you get him out of the field, you're absolutely lame. However, Chlorine has a rotation of 15, so you can play a team of Chlorine from Nahida, Fiorina, and even if Baizhu has 20 seconds, you can play Salonin last character. And you have the same team, the same carry elected that has more roof than Keshin. And taking advantage of Nahida C2 and Fiorina C2. And you have here a representation of an elected card that does everything better than Keqing, all better than Shino. Shino likewise, because it also has its roof and its investments, and it can get pretty high. But today, if it is not in this use, it is not used so much, and we could leave it here on me over Keqing perfectly. If I wanted to throw away the nostalgia and love I can have for the character, yeah, we could put it around here to Liney's height, more or less. But the reality is that it can be given here in me perfectly, because Chlorine DA has literally made Shino have no place anymore. Even Raiden herself can be played in the Raiden. Even if it depends on its C3 or its C2 Raiden, Nahida, Furina, Baiju, Doton, Ito. We talked about Ito quite a bit today. Ito, if we're talking about your absolute roof, unfortunately. And after the arrival of Xilonen C2, it would be below Navia, since Navia can take advantage of Furina C2, Xilonen C2, and Bennett Taitak, and then that makes Ito unable to get over Navia anymore. Until the arrival of Xilonen with the Xilonen C2 Navia combo, Ito could shade it and even overcome it in its best version, Navia's teams, but not today. And besides, Ito unfortunately depends on having his 100% gun, not Navia, and depends on a single team, which is playing Ito with Goro Chinese, and third Geo, either Albedo or Kiori Cone Weapon, either Xilonen CT2, but Xilonen CT2, which is a character CT2. And lastly, remember that you can play Zhongli, or you can play another character like Fischl himself or Kuki herself, and that carrying Fischl and Kuki gives you better input, that Zhongli gives you concretely. So I'm so sorry, mains Ito, but I'd be down here today. Ito underneath the rest of that? Well, I think so. I think it's better to leave it here, unless these two get Navuika's buff. I think Ito is more correct to put it around here next to these carries, that you need a little effort to get them to do a job. Comparison of these above, and that you can get similar. Around here, I think Ito, along with Liney, more or less on his excellent team. And finally, and the rest of you who passed the tier, the video is over. It's nothing like you can imagine. Let's see Diluc. Diluc as a carry has a team of downs. That's the same gaming team, but it's inferior to gaming, which is a 4 stars. Is less than gaming cone. That is Diluc 5 stars. It is inferior to gaming cone on the same team. So it's true that Diluc has an amazing team of descenders, which is the same song from gaming with Yanyan, Furina and Bennett. Worse than a 4 stars cone, I will say no more. The Diluc is here at me at Keiching's height. Keiching better, but well, more or less the same, because I think it benefits Diluc more downhill than it does Keiching. And as a curiosity, Diluc also has a Diluc burn team. Furina, Emily, Bennett, whoever likes Diluc, I recommend you try, because it's still a strong team breaking the abyss. Something like Panadiluc. It's true he's got his brows, which makes you lower your defenses, or ignore the defenses 30% of the enemies all over the team, which is a C2 that could be likened to Nahida's C2 too. I mean, it's very powerful, and that enables very good monopyro teams, very good teams of the same burning Korea of Diluc, but taking into account also that disuse, and that would combine worse. I could play a very similar team of Inei with Kazuha, Furina, Bennett. Let's leave Klee out there too, because practically too takes into account the opinions of the players and the disuse. In the end, if we talked only about using the players, there would be many characters that would change, but you have to keep a balance between them. Clay out of disuse could also be around here and piss today. We've got Chaska left all around. I'm not putting Chaska all around because it's complicated, and I can't even conceive of Chaska's power today until it comes out. All around could do something between Shebruz and Fischl? So Abla, if in the end it's very strong, it can be here, because he gives us the set of NATLAN, which also the set of NATLAN is one of Silonen's strengths, 40% elemental damage. So maybe Olaran can get here right between Shebruz and Fischl, but it's too risky. And to finish, Lisa would be in a very low P. I could even put her here in tier Sinyan, but I don't get too low. Lisa doesn't do anything better than not doing anyone over her head. Noelle Carigeo has the Seeks, has the possibility to play with Furina, C2, because it's healer and accompany her to Cologne and CT2 at ONT. I mean, to this day, Noelle has seen a new roof, which combines very well with Shilon and CT2, Furina CT2, and Goru TX, for example. And it's Noelle's best in slot. With what Noelle is going to seem very curious to you, but Noelle can get here above Yoimiya's height. Kind of a thing like that can get to be. It's funny, but well, Noelle has a little more to offer. Kaeya to this day, everything Kaeya does is Rosaria, but better, with better cooldown, better power for the team, better damage. Kaeya's a worse Rosaria, and that's it, so I'm so sorry. In fact, I'm really sorry because I'm already gonna put it around here in me. Rosaria is a better Kaeya. Rosaria will put it. You can play inverse melts, making it the Shinji-like part. It can be played in permafrost. Criterion as permafrost, super bad. You can play in physicists. Physicists are over here. Eula, poor thing. And from what's more or less above, I think little more Rosaria. There's a very rare team from Rosaria melting over Burn, making Rosaria a kind of Xiangling out of the field. That makes like 50, 60k out of the field, which is what Xiangling usually does. It's not bad, but it's not the big deal either. So Rosaria like 4 stars would be here, below it, maybe above Cave. Something like that, I think. I'd put it around Rosaria. Above Soryukon, of course. Below Albedo. Odanifjeji. Something like that. Kashina to see. Kashina was useful at the beginning of NATLAN, but it got to the point where Shilonen came out. Then Kashina does everything Shilonen does, but much worse. Kashina isn't even giving you a shield. I mean, it just activates the buffo, and it's a sub-DPS Geo. It's true that it makes crystallize. So it's Shilonen, but worse. And it's like some kind of Kirara, but worse. It's kind of a Zoma. Leila Ba, but worse. So today I'm really sorry, but Kachina's coming this way. It's in me, so it's more usable than just Tyr, Xinyan. Then Haiju with the theme of Scaramouche and Shao, Kari 4 stars. Decent potential, strong teams, shares therefore playing course Faruzan CX, Furina CT2, Bennett to punch in 500,000. We already have a lot of characters that break 1 million, but for 4 stars to get 500,000 is fine. Like carry 4 stars, I'd put it around here. Below Noel, above Toma and all these things. Basically around here, Haiju in me. Yaemiko, I think I'd be around Albedo to this day. These carries may give you a good team with few resources. He has a very high roof, although it is only a team. Is that it could be further down perfectly to this day? After the arrival of Navia? No, but your team is very powerful. Lini? Well, a little overvaluation too. Uridisli. Thinking about the future. These two from here, from this Shao line up. If they are very consistent, and higher would even put it. From Scaramouche to left are very consistent. These carries here aren't as consistent as they are today. And I don't know if to put Yai right here. On top of these carries, I think so. I think Yai could go here perfectly. More consistent is a team of Yae Afka, Yae Official, Nahida, Baiju, or a Yae Hyper Bloom team in any way with or without Furina. Or playing Yae, Xingqiu, Yelan Nahida, where here the only defensive part is Xingqiu and distance because Yae hits from quite a distance. It's more consistent today than playing these other things here. I don't mean this kind of thing, but it's more consistent than all this. And finally, Lynette as a defensive contribution to Nemo, of course. Better than 20. And I don't know if it's better than healers. Maybe this way, at the height of these 4 stars, below. Above Baidu, above Rosaria, perhaps below. Because it's not healer or anything, it gives you good energy, it gives you a taunt. I'd rather recommend Lynette than recommend Venti today in the game. Polay today would be in mem very low, does something similar to Lisa, but inside for Bloom's reactions mainly. Cause he gets a lot of ticks with Nilu, but then he only gives you 9 seconds. Application inside when many characters already give you 15. 20 seconds of application inside, so nothing worse than the Traveler inside. Yanfai, therefore above Noeli at Yoimiya. I wouldn't say maybe that above Yoimiya, but here at Yoimiya's high. Like 4 stars, even though Yanfei is careful, he's very powerful. And Mona? Mona would be in a but criteria of super delegated permafrost. Poor little Mona, maybe you'd have to put her in me. The truth is that because of disuse, because his best in slot was permafrost, his second has a second best in slot, and people don't play it much. But whoever has Raiden C2, but doesn't have Sarah Chicks, and then he wants to play Silonen Bennett or Kazuha Bennett for Raiden Hyper Carry. Mona with Dragon Hunter is the second best alternative. After Zara Chinks doesn't have it, but I don't know if it makes her put it in either. Mona also has a carry team, making her the Tartaglia or the Ayatos. And you got her C2 being Mona, Kazuha, Xiangling Bennett, where she does a decent job. And then the 5 seconds Xiangling gets 3, pyronated with the 5 seconds of the debuff that Mona puts enough harm inflicted on the enemies. Xiangling can fit 100k perfectly with the pyronate. So Mona, I'm doubting whether to put her on high as the best support for me. Or directly put it down here next to what these heaters can do. If the truth is, Mona would do something like that. Here, above Kavan would also be, below Baidu, perhaps. Something like that. Something like that I think Mona would be. People are very fond of him. He's a 5-star, so a lot of people would say, oh, 5 stars and I put it around here, but no. I think Mona's down here above all these. These defensive contributions to this day, these are here for a position of honor and out of respect, but the rest nothing, the rest super little used. There the tier list. I'm going to take a look at what would change. These are the most important points of the tier, and it is almost an hour of tier, and they would be A. Furina better character the game? In my opinion, Nail. Shilonen second best character in the game, and Shilonen will also have much more synergy with future characters who haven't come out yet because it's from NATLAN, with which Shilonen still has room for improvement. Perfect! Second best character in the game. Nahida best character Dendro, and the best characters of the game, next to Kazuha Tatata. Yeah, I'm not sure if Nahida Kazuha or Kazuha Nahida. I'm not sure about this really. This isn't. It could be perfectly like that. Something like that. Bennett here, perfect, perfect, perfect. The 3 best carries in the game. Perfect. Maspul's tier is perfect. 4 stars. 4 stars. 4 stars. 4 stars. 4 stars. 4 stars. 5. 4 stars. 6. 5 stars. 11 characters of almost 100, which is the best of the game. 3 carries and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 supports. With this here, you pass the whole game. This right here is for the best. This right here is what can give you anything you need. Only this solves everything. Then tier S, Yolanda higher than tier S. Totally perfect and I don't regret it. Sinyan here. I confuse her with Yanyan already for so many equis. Sinyan here. Emily here. Kinich. Mualani. Sakarosa. Fisher. Chevreuse. I'd say I'd do something like that even. Chevreuse today is getting more powerful and it will affect you. Directly the buff to the overload for good. I'm here. From the little carries. There are few carries. There are 6 carries between Maspul and that one. By Sujongle I say, places of honor, respect, and above all to the people. They could be lower maybe, but here I'm going to leave them. Then in tier A Nilu, although it is very much in disuse, but your real contribution would be here really. Tinari, Raiden, Navia, Chlorind, Utao. I wouldn't know if Utao could be like this with his new team. Maybe Chlorind with Cone and C2 has better ceilings and armor. It's got a lot better roofs than that. Chlorind's Royal Roof would be here in fact, which happens that the buffer that will come to reactions, which is also a fact, would further improve Raiden, and Raiden has the potential to improve with Mavuika. So Raiden here. Xiao here very consistent. Jai, Escaramuche Adyadu, below Xiao, Ryodse, Dijatanya. These 5 carries here. I want to do the disclaimer. I think Escaramuche, Ryodesley, Liney, Ito, Ayato and Tartaglia in this order could put them down. Then dedicated supports. Farutsan, I think she's the one who has the most weight for this and this. She for Raiden, but very important as a character. Dedicated support, 4 stars checks. This gentleman with Ito who is here. But if he were to go down to Ito, he would go down to Gru as well. Shaya is luckily it has utility outside the permafrost. And maybe some melting gold that comes out of NATLAN can do. Albedo here, Rosaria, Lynette, Baidu, Mona Pot Pontistin. Perfect. Kaveh by the Bloom team is useful, but the same thing is how Goru is one team. Kiori, Kon, and Gandain. I'm going to be fair to Kiori. I could be here because the end she individually is powerful, and it makes 1 and a gun gives you more damage than Albedo. But neither she nor Albedo in the end have surpassed Xylon and C2 in teams from Navia and Ito. So I'm sorry for both of you. Dendro, Traveler. Kokomi, useful defensive contribution. Kokomi. Consistent, much less than before, has no best in slot. Charlotte, Kirara, Yao Yao, and Jin. I don't know if to do something like that, or Yao Yao over Kirara. I think I'd put Yao Yao above Kirara because of the thing that heals you. Tai Tier Jinyan or Tia Tier Amber who was called at the time. Do you remember the Tia Tier Amber that was called? The Mei Shino? Commanding the Mei Titan? You have to be realistic. It's today's reality with poor Shino. He's got very good damage. He could get there if we just talked about his biggest roof of damage. Like this way. Underneath this. But today the difference with all of them is that while Ito only has 1 character who beats him and the 2 of them is carry Hydro, it's true who beat it better carry Hydro, but they're different teams, different functions. If not, the reality is that same function, same synergy, same team, same function, same synergy, same team and overcomes it and could do the same. So if not, the reality is that he already has 2 more versatile characters with more damage. One is an Archon, plus Ito does not compete with Archon. So this is reality. Clay Dilo, Keiching, Ayaka Pil. Ayaka could be in that perfectly as one of the best carries of the game next to Alhaitham here or here next to Jenny Kimulani. Zoyaka, I'm so sorry. Danyu and Ayaka? Always. Barbara Benti. I'd put it further down, actually. Yoimiya Yanvai. Poor Arshon Buktonde. Noel. Chiais with your team. Haitsuazo with Fiorina. C2. Farouz and Bennett. Contributions that were highly overrated today do practically nothing. Kahina, who was useful until Shilonet arrived. Oila, I'm getting out, you poor thing. Mika, who depends directly on Ulida Tatadelinai. Deya over here. Diona, Sayu, Lisa, Kolei, Kimsok, Onsai. I agree perfectly. They're in me because they do more than be totally useless. Lisa and Kolei. And down here and what follows is really insurmountable today. Candace just at the gates of being insurmountable. Kaya is much worse than Rosaria being 4 stars. Shichi, because the same thing about all the healers that there is nothing anymore. Xiongryun brings nothing. Shizwa, poor thing. I mean, she literally came to be. Well, I think it's the top 5 stars. Shizwa is Genshin's worst 5 stars, if we don't count the Traveler who is considered 5 stars. And Aloy who's considered, I don't know what is considered, is Genshin's worst 5 realistic promotional stars. Watch out for Shizwa. Ember over here. Yungjin totally disused. Razor, even if he has a rescuable team, totally disused. Preminate 6 years ago can approach Ula, but there is already an UAR. We don't want anything that does something similar. Ningguang, Zame with Noel. It doesn't get to what Noel does. Dory, completely useless, not much more poor. Traveler of all the evil variants. Zetos, I'm so sorry about the same thing. You'll say no? Faithful Sito does have a master's team, damage, electro such. It's like Yanfei, but much worse. I mean Yanfei in comparing it to Pyro. I mean, there are 80,000 carries Pyro, because it's the same thing right now. Citos. It's Electro, body to Tate. I mean, Hedges right now, all the Electros are above Hedges. That's why he doesn't paint anything anymore. If we want to be good to Citos, who will say I have tried it and I have tried it. Played, I've tried it too and I've played it. We could put it here at Haizu's height below. But it seems unfair to me for these supports that today can bring more. And Hedges isn't that I have such a high ceiling either. Almost like Yanfei, which can at least vaporize. Zeto can play Hyper Bloom or Aggrave like these teams. Let's do fair concepts. I think reality is true that you can put it here next to Haitsu. I think that Setos can do a performance here. The truth is that performance on your best Setos team could make a shadow. So to Noah, to Yanfei, to these 4 stars in their best team. Aloy and Shinyanda. Capable? See none better than Aloy. Aloy is the ultimate waste. Something like that would be. There he is. This is Genshin's final 2024 tier list start. I'm gonna take the camera away for you to see. That's where the Nvidia is activated. Well, it looks a bit like it too. That's the camera. Midade de Kaya, Candace, and Kolei. This is the definitive and, in my opinion, quite precise list. Now you'll tell me in the comments who keeps the education and respect in networks. What would be better? What would make it worse? And why would it come? Who know? Obviously there will be collectives that melt me for albedo, people who have fun for something and such. But I think today, this is the most reliable and closest representation to reality. And to the truth there may be in Genshin Impact. Aolo is already in advance in case I'm wrong about something, because I'm human and I could be wrong, and I know I'm gonna fall no, because any day you fall no, nothing happens. I'm not quoting him either. I'm very happy with the work I've done and with this here. And a little more. I hope you enjoyed it a lot. Thank you for joining me this hour and 5 minutes. I think it's the longest video I've ever made in a long time on Genshin Impact. And, well, maybe it lasts less, because editors might be better or better. Not the one that goes up like that directly, because everything I think has been important. And a little bit more. I don't know, there's mini. See you in the following videos. Okay. I hope you like this so much that it breaks the algorithm. Bye.